There are some voices from our history that still echo so profoundly and resonate so deeply that they still call us forward today. One of those voices, of course, is of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., whose birthday we celebrate and honor this week. I wanted to share with you a song and a story directly inspired by Dr. King's work and legacy, and specifically his final delivery, the speech that became known as the Mountaintop Speech. So my song is Put on Your Climbing Shoes, and I believe it is so relevant for us today. I happened to be living and working in Minnesota when I wrote the song Put on Your Climbing Shoes. I was in the midst of community that looked a variety of ways. It is Minnesota, my first home after being born and raised in New England and going to college there. My first job at like 22, I got that job in Minnesota. And so I moved halfway across the country, had a little bit of culture shock because there's a lot of Norwegians and Scandinavians, and they kind of have their own jokes and their own customs and things that even as a white person, I was not accustomed to. And so that was an interesting cultural part of living in Minnesota. And the other really beautiful part of living there is that there's actually a brilliant multicultural community. And I had the privilege and opportunity of being a part of them, of poets and activists, Black and brown, Latino, Latina, Asian photographers, so many incredible, brilliant people. And a lot of what I know now about the impacts of racism and what the ideology of white supremacy functionally does and how it impacts lives of our siblings of color, our kin who are Black and brown and Indigenous, I learned in relationship. Sure, I did some study on my own at that time in my life. I studied Dr. King and others like him in the civil rights movement. I've studied like human rights issues around the world and how corporate greed impacts how human rights are, or the condition of human rights around the world. But primarily what I know in my being is because of relationship, of being with my friends, my collaborators, my mentors and teachers who shared with me firsthand, who allowed me to hear them, who gave me the privilege of hearing their stories and their truth, and who allowed me to work alongside of them. And I'm so grateful for that. I see now how there were different responses to this song that I will share with you in a few minutes. A lot of white folks who love and appreciate my music and who have great hearts and are well-intentioned would respond to this song, Put on Your Climbing Shoes, as well as other songs that I was writing at the time. They would kind of suggest that they might maybe belong to a different decade. And I sort of understood what they meant, but it didn't always they didn't really settle with me. And I look back now and I remember my Black and brown friends completely resonating with it. And I think it's because they know the climb of this mountainside of justice and equity. They know it in their bodies. They know it in their beings. They know the climb so well. And I'm seeing right now what is happening in Minnesota. I am coming to you now from San Diego, but looking with an attentive, watchful eye at what my friends in the Minneapolis area are sharing of what's happening as they're experiencing an insurgence of ICE presence. They are telling stories, and these are Black and white together, telling stories of racialized enforcement, of how immigrants are being targeted, and mostly by the color of their skin. And so this climb to that mountaintop of justice and equity, it's become even more real for even more white folks. And I want my white friends who are listening to know that it is never too late to join this climb. It is never too late. And we do have a responsibility for how we join this climb, right? A couple of things about that. One is, let us not succumb to the paralyzing impact of white guilt. When we let that take over, then sometimes we find ourselves doing nothing rather than joining the climb. Sometimes there's this inclination to white savior mentality or a white messiah mentality, and that's not beneficial either. We always are needing to listen before leading. We let our black and brown kin, our siblings who have been here, who have been fighting fascism and racism for a long, long time, we let them lead, and we walk beside, and we support, and we lead our other white kin in this, right? With care, with intentionality. This is a living, breathing relationship that we are in to this work. It's never about getting everything right. And Dr. King, in his messaging and his teachings, he never asked white allies to be perfect. He asked us to show up. He asked us to listen. He asked us to be in it. And I love the way that as I dove in even deeper this week as I was preparing for this message to you all. I listened back to his Mountaintop Speech that he delivered in Memphis the night before he was assassinated. He was there to be in solidarity with sanitation workers who were on strike. So Dr. King was not only working for civil rights and human rights, he worked for economic justice, he worked for anti-militarization and anti-war work. He saw it as all interconnected. And it's important for us to see these systems of injustice all being interconnected, because you and I, we are all interconnected for better or for worse. And Dr. King would talk about that, how we are connected in this web of humanity, and when one of us is not free, none of us are free. And I believe that more and more of us are experiencing that, are seeing that reality. So Dr. King was devoted and committed and calls us to be devoted and committed to truth, to justice, and to love. And he would name clearly the injustices. He would name clearly the egregious violations of human rights and civil rights that the ideology of white pseudo-supremacy would create, the systemic injustices. He would name these clearly, even though they were hard to hear, even though it's hard to face. It was so critical to name that. In another song of mine that I've talked about, I have this line that says, "Honor the pain," because it points to where the medicine goes. We must recognize the issues and the problems for us to be about the solution, right? James Baldwin, another incredible Black leader, poet, and speaker, he said, "Not everything that we face can be changed, but nothing can be changed if it is not faced," right? So this dedication to naming what's true, to that mountaintop being a place of clarity where you can see farther, you can see clearer, and you can name the reality of what is happening. And at the very same time, he just as boldly and faithfully was dedicated to love. It is fierce love that requires us to tell the truth. It's fierce love that causes us to have the energy and the momentum to walk beside each other through these struggles, hardships, and challenges. It is love that allows us to remember that we must take times to rest along this climb, that we must take time to nurture and sustain ourselves and one another. It is also love that never dehumanizes ourselves or the oppressor. Dr. King knew that as vile as an oppressor could behave, that actually was evidence that they needed to get free too. That even the oppressor, anyone in the government enforcing these racialized systems of injustice, they need to get free too. They need to get their hearts and souls back, fully functioning. There's so many things that I could say about this, but I also want to bring to light for you something that some other Black voices have been teaching me. So one is, I would love to invite you to follow Bernice King. She is the daughter, the youngest daughter, I believe, of Dr. King, and she so incredibly carries forward her father's legacy, her father's teachings, her father's community organizing, and it is so much more than nostalgia. It is a living, active call and challenge and encouragement. So Bernice King is someone I would encourage you to look up and follow. I've also been listening to other Black women, scholars, and I have a friend named Andre Henry, who is a brilliant speaker, author, community organizer, leader, and an artist, a singer-songwriter. And he recently shared something publicly that I'll seek to relay to you as well as I can. And it was about the fact that fascism really has always been a part of the American system. And I know that can be hard to face, but in some ways it's actually good news. And this is what he said. He said, you know, a lot of times we're looking at what's happening in our country right now, and it's easy to compare to an authoritarian regime in another part of the world. But what is important to understand is that Nazi Germany actually studied America, Jim Crow's America, they studied segregation and laws that were against interracial marriage. They actually studied America to do what they did in Nazi Germany. And so Andre Henry reminds us that America is not just behaving like Nazi Germany. America is actually behaving like America. And the reason he said this is good news is because we have fought these battles before, and we get to keep learning from previous victories, from previous defeats, and it is simply our turn to fight fascism, to fight racialized injustice in our world. And so I am so grateful. Thank you to any of my Black and brown kin, friends, colleagues, collaborators who have taught me so much. And I want to also call in my white friends to responsibly join this climb. And let's keep listening, let's keep learning, let's keep putting on our climbing shoes to climb this mountainside towards equity, towards restorative justice. Let's put on our climbing shoes with defiant hope for healing, for humanity, for this much more kind, fair, and beautiful world that our hearts entirely knows is possible. It is possible to create and live in and sustain and nurture together a world where we are okay. And in the meantime, let's keep looking out for one another with that fierce love that calls for truth and justice. In the meantime, let's keep coming back to our humanity, to our interconnectedness, and to these beautiful clarion calls to keep climbing. I love you, and thank you so much for listening to this story and this song today. Let's put on our climbing shoes. 1, 2, 3, 4. Put 'em on, get ready. 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 Hey, hey. Set out on this journey, my friends and kindred, with provisions of love, grace, and forgiveness. With conviction, we are all intrinsically connected, with so much in common and with beautiful difference. Put on your climbing shoes, put on your climbing shoes, put on your shoes. Take me with you to the mountaintop. Keep on climbing, we'll never stop. Ooh. Wade through streams, press on and push against the wind. Take my hand, build trust. I know, my friend, you'll help me up. Sometimes we'll run and hurdle, sometimes we'll trip and stumble over rocks and crags, steep passageways. Love will lift us all. Put on your climbing shoes, put on your climbing shoes, put on your shoes. Take me with you to the mountaintop. Keep on climbing, we'll never stop. Ooh. And when stormy clouds are covering the summit view, remember how rainbows come into bloom. Ooh, storm clouds, showers, thunder, and drenching rain collide with sunshine, rays of light, to ribbons of colorful change. Put on your climbing shoes, put on your climbing shoes, put on your shoes. Take me with you to the mountaintop. Keep on climbing, we'll never stop. Yeah, keep on hiking and we'll scale the heights. Keep on walking, walk by faith, not by sight. Ooh, 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 ooh. Oh, put on your shoes. 1, 2, 3, 4. Put 'em on, get ready. 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 Thank you again for listening. I am creating a lot of different kinds of things like this at my Patreon. I would love to invite you there to keep in touch. You can join at the free level just to stay connected and informed and hear more stories and poems, photography, talks, songs, be a part of this creativity. I do believe that beauty is a significant part of healing our world together, of staying human and in love with life and in love with humanity. So join us. We'd love to welcome you there, becoming a part of a community of like-minded people who believe in the power of music and message to bring that defiant hope, healing, and uplifting humanity, who believe in the power of these artistic tools and communication to truly make a difference in our world. Join us at patreon.com/HeatherLynnMusic, and I will see you again soon.